Nurse.org and Major League Sports teams are honoring nurses with discounted game tickets and once-in-a-lifetime experiences. From throwing the first pitch to riding the Zamboni to on-court recognition, join the fun. Visit nurse.org/nurse night to find a nurse appreciation event near you and grab your discounted tickets today. You're listening to Nurse Converse, presented by Nurse.org, a collaborative podcast amplifying diverse nurse voices. Get ready for a dose of inspiration, a sprinkle of education, and a whole lot of community.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Nurse Converse podcast. This is Colton Lord. I have been here before. I am one half of the Nurse Daddies, and I have Mr. Daddy Dazo, Glenn Dazo, here with me today. So hello, Glenn, Daddy Dazo.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
Of course. We're literally in the same apartment. I'm just in my bedroom, and he's in my kitchen because... But we're going to start off with our signature spritz. So grab your Diablo, girl.
Yes, we are going to be spritzing to we will look glowing and radiant for you.
Period.
There you go.
The impetus of this podcast today for everybody listening is we are highlighting the Filipino community, and especially Filipinos that represent the nursing community. And so Glenn was born in the Philippines and came to the U.S. So we're going to kind of go through his journey and kind of pick his brain on the journey from the Philippines to the United States. So Glenn, to kind of bring us back to the Philippines, I guess, like, what got you into nursing?
What got me into nursing? So I went to school at a very young age, and my parents paid for my education, so I really didn't have a choice. Initially, I was really enrolled in a pre-med program, but then a year later, after I'd done a year of pre-med prerequisites and whatnot, my cousins, who were both nurses from New York, came to visit us one time, and they spoke with my dad, and I don't know, for some reason my dad got convinced that I should just go into nursing. That way it'll be easier for me to come to the States to study, because I've always wanted to study in the States. And the next thing I knew, I was enrolling myself in a nursing program in a different university.
So you were going the pre-med route, but you ended up going nursing to make it kind of just easier to get here to the United States?
Yes, because also, I don't know what convinced what my cousins told my dad, but they said that, being a nurse, it's easier also to get into medical school, which I don't think that it was the case.
Yeah.
And also, because I had aspirations of coming to the US to study medicine, I thought my dad found a way for me to come here, and then it'll be easier, a financial burden on them, that they don't have to pay for my education, because being a nurse, if I could work in the States, then I'd also, if I want to go to med school, but that didn't work out the way.
So the ultimate goal was med school. So nursing was kind of, at the time, nursing was kind of your way to get here maybe a little bit quicker. And kind of take us back, because I know how old were you? I know this is kind of a good story. Like, how old were you when you started university or school or whatever you call it?
I started the university at 14.
14. That's wild.
Yes, I know it is, because I think my parents married late. So my mom was 35. My dad was 40. And I think they were worried that, because they had to pay for our education, they were worried that, they'll be old or whatever, decrepit, and not be able to pay or send us to school. So
okay.
I know they sent me to school at a very young age.
So how old were you when you graduated as a nurse? Like, when did you get your nursing license in the Philippines?
19.
Wow, that's crazy.
19, really 19. I got my license June of 1994, because I graduated in March
before I was born.
1994.
Yeah, before I was born.
Yes, I know you take pride in saying that I'm your mother's age.
Yes, yeah. For anybody listening, Daddy Dazo was born the same year as my mother, so that's
yes. So I took the board exam right after. So I spent a year with pre-med, and then I did still 4 years of nursing.
Is the licensing test in the Philippines different than the U.S.? Is it called the NCLEX there?
It is called the Philippine National Licensure Exam, PNLE, Philippine Nurses Licensure Exam.
So you had to take a new test when you got here. You had to take the NCLEX, or did your license transfer?
No. So I did. I had to take the NCLEX, because NCLEX is the standard for anyone coming to the U.S. or anyone who's done nursing school in the U.S. But I had to take another exam just because I'm a foreign graduate. There was a commission of the it's called CGFNS, the Commission of the Government for Foreign Nursing Schools. Most states require them that you take it. Some of the states doesn't require you to take the CGFNS as
Okay.
long as you have the equivalent education of a bachelor's degree. So everyone who goes to school in the Philippines earns a bachelor's degree. We don't do associates. Right after school, you go straight into a bachelor's program.
Kind of going back before you came to the United States, you stopped in the Middle East, right, to do
Right.
nursing. So what was the like first, how long were you there, and how different was like nursing in the Philippines to the Middle East to like the US? Like what were like the biggest differences that you noticed,
Oh,
or
there's
were there any?
huge difference. You think about it. If you look at the Philippines back when I was trained, this was in the early mid 90s. We didn't really have a lot of equipment, and I went to school in the southern part of the Philippines. We were in a city, but we didn't really have a lot of the resources that you guys would have here in the U.S. Like our equipment, we have to count our drops for our drips. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you have a pediatric patient, you have to count a micro drip. When I went to the Middle East, it was kind of more advanced because they're in the Middle East. They have been influenced by nursing from the UK and from the US. A lot of the nursing program or protocols that they use are patterned from the nurses who came from the UK, because that area where it's kind of like heavily driven by nurses who are trained in the UK and New Zealand and Australia. There weren't a lot of nurses from the US. And then when I came to the US, it was a whole different ballgame. In fact, when I came, I took the exam for New York and I had applied for an equivalency in Chicago, Illinois. So when I was in Illinois in 2000, I think 2001, they're required that nurses who are foreign graduates should take a full semester of clinicals. So I did a clinical, a year, no, a semester of clinicals at a small community college up in Schaumburg, William Harper Rainey, something. I think that's where I went, and I did
And
like
that's in Chicago?
that's in Chicago, and kind of like introduce you, because I think it was very helpful as well, because with that I was able to familiarize with myself with all the other equipments and things that you guys do here in the States, as compared to, though when we were trained in the Philippines, our books are from here. So you have to think back that this is an education system that has been developed by the Americans back in the day when there was a shortage of nurses here in the US. And this also harkens back to the history of how, our educational system was established in the Philippines, because, we were once colonized by the Americans.
Okay. Wow,
Yes.
little history lesson from you
Yes,
there.
there's a whole history lesson. If you want me to talk about it, we can go back to like, so the Americans actually not liberated us, but then I think took over the Spaniards in
Mm-mm.
1858, and they stayed there until towards the Second World War. And so during that time, how they conveyed themselves, or what they were offering the people, because they made the Philippines as a commonwealth, not to be colonized as an imperialist. They called it they have this program called, I've heard this from one of scholars from UC Berkeley. She's also of Filipino descent. And she said that there was a program they called benevolent assimilation, where they come into a country that they want to colonize, and then they would introduce their, healthcare system,
Oh, yeah.
education,
Yeah.
and that.
Mm.
So as Filipinos, when we go to school, we are educated with English as a medium of instruction.
Okay.
So it was easier for us to go into, like, if say we have to come to the US, or we would work anywhere in the world, because English is the medium of instruction. We are taught in English. And the books that we use
So
for
interesting.
nursing is
Yeah.
all in English.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you were having you so you yeah, so it's the same education basically that you would get.
Essentially, the
Yeah.
books that we use, we have Sanders, everything
Oh,
for
okay.
the fundamentals of nursing. We use Lippincott's, stuff like that.
Okay. You had Florence Nightingale teaching you?
Now, Florence Nightingale, yes.
She was your nursing
Rest in
instructor?
God. And she was holding a lamp, not like this little, lamp, whatever. With
So, when you were planning to come to the US after the Middle East, were you I know you were kind of talking about this, but were you looking at like major cities? Like why I don't understand like why specifically Chicago? Did you land out? Did you know people there? And
Yes.
how do you, as someone coming from the Philippines, like how do you can you just like come to America and be like, okay, I have a nursing license, I want to work? Like, do you have to, is there a process, like an application process? Like how do you get here to even start that process?
There is a process. I didn't do the conventional process. I came as a tourist,
Okay. Oh,
so I could be
okay.
deported.
You could have
But
been you could have been deported.
But I'm a person. I think this is just me. I play I have a numbers game. So when I went to school, I was like very. I think I had a certain way of doing things. I'm very methodical. Like I knew that this is what I'm going to be doing. So when I went to the Middle East, I think I thought of it as a stepping ground for me to leave the country because ultimately I really want to come to the U.S. Not for anything, but I think. But I think really what wanted me what I really want to do was to further my education was to have an American education. I don't know, for some reason it's the colonial mentality that has
Yeah.
been instilled in us.
What's that American dream that everybody,
Also,
and then you get
yes,
here and you're like, oh,
yeah. So when I got to the Middle East, so I had a good contract. When I was there, I would only have to work 10 months and a half, and then I get 45 days paid annual vacation. Well, most Filipinos who work abroad would go home to their families. I would not go home. So in 1997, because I went there in 1996, I graduated in 1994. In 1996, I was able to go to the Middle East. My first vacation was June of 1997. I didn't go home to the Philippines. I went to London and I toured Europe. So then you would have to get this is what not Sinjan is. Sinyan wasn't then the thing in Europe. There was no European Union, so you would have to go to all the smaller embassies to get your visas. So you have to remember this. Like, bear this in mind that there is a reason why I did this. So I would go to all the smaller embassies, get my visa, go to Switzerland, Italy, everywhere. And then after the 45 days vacation, I would go back to the Middle East and work again. The next year, I did that the same process. Because you know why I did that? Because when I went to the American embassy, I had to show them that I had all these stamps in my passport.
oh,
And
he's a methodical daddy.
yes,
Yeah.
that I am gonna, because we were blacklisted. You have to
Really?
remember, it's not easy for Filipinos to come to the US. I'm not gonna say I don't think it's blacklisting, but I think we have a reputation for coming to the US and not coming back. And if they find out that you're a nurse, even more so that they won't let you. So
Okay.
you really had to kind of prove it to them that, oh, I'm just doing this. I'm young, when I went to the embassy and I had to go through the whole interview process, and I was just like, it has been a dream for me. And I've traveled Europe twice for the last 2 years. And, I would
So
come
you,
back with it.
so you came here as a tourist,
Yes.
and then you went to
Oh,
then
for just a whole process. Yeah.
like how long before you arrived here were you able to then start like working as a nurse? Like, were you having to work other jobs?
I did odd jobs while working and getting my license too. Because
Okay.
unlike most conventional people who are hired by people from like nursing agencies and they're offered jobs, they would have to wait 2 to 3 years sometimes to get all their paperwork in place. I did as a tourist when I got here, but I knew how to do it because when I got here, really, initially I thought of going back because really I'm like, I need to go back because I'm not ready. I haven't done all my exams. But then this family that helped me in Chicago, who they're kind of like my pseudo family too. They're like really best friends with my parents, and the kids are my god sisters. We're really really close
So
family
that's how
friends.
you
They
ended
were
up
like,
in
yeah,
Chicago.
they were like, why would you go back to the Middle East when you can work here? So then just do apply and like do whatever. But I knew already that if I had to do that, I would have to work harder more than what would a regular nurse who's been hired in the Philippines would do. So, I had to transfer my visa from being a tourist to. Oh no, I had first applied for an extension. It was a long process, and I had to find a sponsor. And I had to work on getting on my exam. So I did odd jobs as well.
Okay. That's so wild. Like just like hearing you talk about like the whole process. Like, cause I mean, I'm sure that like for everyone like coming from the Philippines or wherever, like there's got to be like some variances in like the ways that people do it.
Right.
So it's just like interesting to like hear you talk about that journey. Like when you got here, like was it was I mean, was like the typical like American dream that you hear about, like was it what you expected, or did you get here
No,
and kind of be shocked, like, oh,
I
this
was
is
like,
what they
oh
talk
no.
about?
I'm like, oh really? Like this is it?
This
Because I
is it.
flew into New York. Oh my god, I remember that I flew into New York. I'm like, what? This
You're like,
is it?
this
Oh
is
my
it.
god. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah. But you know what? I have a lot of really good people that helped me along the way too. So, it wasn't easy for me
Sure, yeah.
compared to most people who, like after me who came to the US. Because also, you have to remember in 1994, when I graduated, there was not a lot of hiring from the Philippines
Mm,
because I think there was a freeze for hiring because there were changes in Medicare and Medicaid.
okay.
And for some reason, the hiring process was affected. So every now and then it ebbs and flows. Like fairly recently, there was also like a kind of like the application process was in a standstill because there was a backlog or something. So yeah, every now and then they're like, oh, there's no hiring, but then of course there's always hiring.
Yeah.
A lot of the Filipino nurses, they just don't come to the US also. They go to other places like the UK, New Zealand, Australia, Germany. In fact, like a very good friend works in Germany. I think that's just how it is. Like,
Is it because of just looking for like better pay? Like, is that why a lot of Filipinos are like leaving the Philippines to work? Is because like conditions pay, like being able to like help support their families? What's like the main reason people leave?
there's a whole lot of reasons why people leave the country. It could be financial, it could be like the financial burden of having to, start a family there. Or if you're not married, you have to support your family. Our parents pay for our education. You kind of like, it's embedded in our culture that we have to help them, which sometimes in a way is detrimental to our psyche because you feel like we're like,
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
yes.
Yeah.
So, but others, like I think these days, not as much. I'm not sure. I haven't really talked to the younger population of nurses, but in my case, I think it was more like me to further my education and, of course, to make a better living. And then, it then trickled into helping my family because, like, I've helped a lot of my family,
Yeah.
my relatives.
So I mean, obviously, especially people who follow us on social media, are most people, I guess, are aware that we live in Boston. I think a lot of people think we live in New York because we go there. But kind of talk to us about getting from Chicago to Boston. I kind of know the story. You had come over, correct, to do like some Harvard classes, and then
Yeah.
ended up just like liking Boston,
The
or why
worst
did you?
decision ever because like still I had so when I was in Chicago I tried to do like when I was settled I had a job and everything. I took classes to go to again because like usually I really wanted to go to med school because I thought that the only thing that I would do in life was to become a doctor.
What
I
kind of doctor did you
stopped.
want to be?
I
With?
thought if I've always wanted emergency medicine.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
That's
that's why I know that I'm gonna die in the ER.
Have you done ED nursing your whole career?
When I was in the Middle East, I did between acute psychiatric care and they
Oh,
call it accident and emergency.
okay.
Hey nurses, looking for exclusive discounts? Nurse.org has you covered with deals on everything. Save big on the essentials you need to excel in your career. Don't miss out. Visit nurse.org/discounts for the latest discounts made just for you.
I one summer in 2007, I came to do a summer school in Harvard, and did organic chemistry for the whole semester.
Gross. But then you just like liked Boston and stayed, or why did
Because
you?
I met people and everyone I've met seemed to be like on a certain like path to further their careers. Like
Well, yeah, that's how
everyone I've
Boston
met,
is, right?
I think so.
Boston's a very like young, booming city of just like young professionals that are
Yeah,
coming
young
here. Whether that's
professionals and
yeah,
everybody that's like doing something to further themselves, to better themselves. So
yeah,
I thought this would be a good environment for me. But after summer school, I went back to Chicago. But then, I'm like, oh, I really just want to go back there. So then it came. I was a traveler. In fact,
oh,
I was a traveler just like you. But I got to the where we were.
yeah,
I got to the hospital where we are now,
yeah.
and I think they kind of liked me. The manager liked me, and the rest of the staff I think also liked me. So I ended up staying, and here we are, 17 years later.
Do you see like a high representation of Filipinos in like nursing? Like, do you see that like where you work, or do you feel like
Where
there's
I
not?
work is a different story. In fact, the other day, it was so funny. I was charged in one of the pods where I was working, and there were the two Filipino nurses that we work with, one traveler, and then the other one was in the hallway. For like 200, how many are we? We are 180 something nurses in the ED,
Yeah.
the
So to
Filipino.
have you all,
But this is an aberration
yeah,
of what the normal is
yeah,
because most places, if you go to New York, California, anywhere, Chicago, it's predominantly, there's a lot of Filipino, not predominantly, but there's a
a
lot of
lot, yeah.
nurses. In
they're just
fact, when I worked in Chicago, at a certain point, some like one of our shifts, they were like from the attending to our techs, we were all Filipinos.
oh,
It's I promise you, if you ever work with a Filipino, it's gonna be a fun night.
of course, you guys are the best. You guys, and you're also the best to have at the potlucks, of course.
Yes, because that's what we're known
Bring the
for.
pen set.
Our language of love is food.
Yes, trust me, I know. Oh my god, the amount of food that you're constantly shoving at me is insane.
No, I'm sorry, but no, not really.
So, kind of talk to us about if you were to give somebody like an aspiring young Filipino professional that's in the Philippines, like what advice or knowledge would you give to them to get to the U.S. if that was like what they wanted to do?
If
Or
that's what they want to do,
yeah,
then they really have to work on getting all their paperwork in place, and then work on their communication skills, because it's really important to
yeah.
communicate. This is really important here in the US to be able to communicate well. You know,
Is the schooling in the Philippines cheaper? Like, is it better
it
to? Is
is
it
oh my
better
god,
to?
way cheaper.
So it's better to
Um,
do schooling there versus like try to come here because you can come here as a student as well, right?
yes, you can
Yeah.
if you have the money to pay for the tuition.
Yes.
But you know what? My goddaughter, who is the daughter of my friend who works with us at the hospital, she now works with us too. And then she came here when she was young. Came here when she was 9 or 8, and she finished high school here. But we were so surprised. She got accepted into one of like the leading nursing schools around the Northeast area. But she opted to go home to the Philippines and study there. You know why? She was very smart, because the amount of money you would pay for like even just one semester of nursing school, that would be enough to
Like
pay
your
for at
entire,
least a
yeah.
good year in the
Yeah.
Philippines, with everything included, your books, everything, your matriculation, your housing and whatnot. And she's like, she has a point, because like she even told her mom, I'm like, look, she calls me Tito, which is like
Yeah.
Tio,
Yeah.
which is
Tito,
uncle.
Tita. Yeah.
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 Tito Glenn
Tito.
works at this hospital where we are now. And, supposedly we are a prestigious hospital, and we are world class,
Allegedly.
allegedly.
Yeah.
And yes, yeah. And then she keeps saying that. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter. And which I think she is right, because, right after she graduated, she took the Philippine boards, then she took the NCLEX, and then she's here and she's now working where we are.
Yeah. And
Ah,
I think that's something that I've really I appreciate about your culture, and something that I've learned just by being around you is just how you were also just like supportive of each other, and you're very passionate, I guess, about like the Filipino culture and just like sticking together and helping each other. And I think that that's something that we don't necessarily have in like the American culture. Is that pretty standard for Filipinos?
it is. It is. So there's also another way to describe it, that we have this called the Bayanihan spirit, where we try to help each other, which is really embedded in the Filipino culture. Like we try to help each other, and also like if you go, because of the family system in the Philippines, we're also very regionalistic. So wherever you come from, we tend to gravitate towards a major of our population. Where if you're like family is from this certain area, you tend to gather together so and help each other. So that's what happened. Though with my case, it took them a long time to come down, because they all live, where they live. They live in New Hampshire. But
Yeah.
finally, they realized, I'm like, you need to come down to Boston and work here, because a lot of people that works at our hospital are even from different areas like Maine, Rhode Island,
Yeah.
New Hampshire.
Yeah,
So
we have people
then they
from all
finally,
over that
yes,
drive just to work
yeah.
at this
But also, yeah, that's very true. We just take care of each other. I think even it's funny, because like, I see all these people like who've recognized me with our social media presence, and they seem to identify just about anything that I do and I say, because I mean that's just how we are,
Yeah.
Filipinos.
It's like I'll never forget like when we walk into like Jollibee in New York, and it's like a damn celebrity just walked in, like everybody's like, "Oh my god."
You should have seen me when I went to London, and everybody's like recognized me.
Yeah, but that's something that like I think I've even been like surprised by just in like social media is just like the support that we get. I feel like is like it's so much from the Filipino population. Like when we post things that are have to do with like being Filipino or just anything like that, we get so much just like support and love, and like even if it's like something that's like funny, like just the outpouring of love that we get. I'm just like, wow, like I guess that's something that's really surprised me. When you look at your life, like how different do you think? I don't know if that's something you can even answer because it's just like hearsay, but like how different do you feel like your life would have been if you never would have come to the US?
Oh,
Because I mean, just when I look at, like I said, for people that follow us and like just know you, I mean, you've spent so much of your life is so unique, even for like just like an American, like your life is unique. Like you work, you travel, like you've been places all over the world, like you're constantly traveling on the go. Like people can only like dream of that kind of lifestyle. So I just wonder like how different you think like your life would have been. Like could you have had this kind of life if you had lived in like the Middle East nursing, or like what do you think?
I think the question is, I think would be, had I not become a nurse?
Okay.
Right,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
think that was the pivotal point
yeah.
in, my career decision, which wasn't really decided by myself, but my parents. I think I would have probably still, I would be still in the medical field. I would have been a doctor, and then probably I would have specialized and came to the US.
Okay.
I'm not sure how it would be with, in terms of traveling.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it still would be the same. I don't know. I think
But I think
I've
sometimes,
always,
they say like sometimes your biggest blessings are like those kind of like those unanswered prayers where it's like if you wanted to be this doctor, like,
yeah,
maybe there's a reason that you just kind of, and
right.
it's not a bad thing at all that you stayed in nursing. I mean, it's not like, it's
Oh,
just a
I
different,
like what I do now.
yeah.
Yes, I do. I do. I would never do anything. I mean, I've always said I knew that I've always be in somewhere in the medical field. I could never do anything. Maybe. Well, no. Maybe I could be a Broadway star.
Be a Broadway star. I think you don't give yourself enough credit because even just like through like things that we've done with social media, like you obviously have like a mind for like business side of things and just like having like a different perspective. So, I mean, just give yourself some more credit. I'm sure you could have found like so many other avenues to go down. This just happened to be like what worked for you. And I think one of the best things about nursing that I have found, even in times where like I feel like burnt out or like that I don't, maybe don't have like as much passion for it as I once had, is just like the flexibility and the options that you have. And I think that's what draws a lot of people into nursing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's very true because, like, if you really think about it, our schedule is so flexible.
So
We only
flexible.
have to work 3 days a week if we
Yeah.
decide to work long hours, and the other days in the week, like the 4 days, you could do whatever you want to do. So I think really it affords you the chance to do whatever you want to do in life, even if you already have a career.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
Well, even like, for example, for like right now, like, I mean, I technically only have like a part-time job where I only have to work 24 hours a week. And then the rest of it, I just kind of like pick up and cater to like what my schedule is. So yeah, I think that's great. What I guess for like for Filipinos, like what do you see the most if not being a nurse? Like what's like the next thing that you would say like Filipinos usually go to like career wise, or is it just kind of like dispersed everywhere from there? Like, is nursing the top career for Filipinos, or is that just like what we see here in America because that's
I
what a lot
think
of
that's just what we see here in America because
okay.
there's a lot of us, especially because we work also in healthcare. So we're kind of immersed in the environment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Filipinos in other fields of, like, entertainment. There's people in finance. There's people in fashion, in restaurants, in, the culinary world. We're getting a lot of new recognition. The Philippines, I heard, is now being not examined, but like I think the Michelin Guide team is there in the Philippines trying to put it on the map that we are a Michelin country. So there's a lot of things that but because we're like encased in this like medical profession, so we think that we see a lot of Filipinos, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of other
Yeah.
Filipinos.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw this question from I was reviewing some other questions before. Like, what do you feel like is the biggest like misconception of like Filipinos? Or do you like would you have like an answer for that, or
To be honest with you, when I was younger and when I first came to America, I thought that people look down on us because a lot of us we do like work like this kind of work like when we were in the Middle East, we would work in the hospitality industry. A lot of the people that works in the hotels are Filipinos. A lot of the people that work in healthcare, and it's like a blue collar job. So I
Mhm.
feel like I wasn't really like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is us. But then I realized I'm like, yes, because this is what we're good at. This is when we excel in this field. We tend to care for people, to take care of other people.
The best too? Like if I think back to any nursing job I've had, like the Filipinos that I've worked with, like honestly, like stand out in my head. Like, 'cause I just remember, even if like just one, like the care that they give the patients, and two, even
I hate saying that because I'm Filipino.
No, it's true. It's so true. Like every job that I have, like, I mean, obviously, like there's other people too that can like stick in my head, but like when I think back to these jobs, like I can tell you like exactly who they were, that like I can just remember the way that they made me feel. And just like I said, like it's just like you, like just like wanting to give like food and just like being so sweet. And then just like the care that they deliver to their patients too, I think is, I don't know. It's different. It's almost hard to even like put it, I guess, into words. But I guess to kind of
Yeah.
like round this out, let's just do a couple fun like rapid fire questions for you. So I know that
All
you love to travel. So tell us, this might be really hard for you to choose, but what's like your favorite place to go? Like if you could only go to one more vacation, where would that be? That it's not like the Philippines.
Oh God, that's so hard.
I know.
Like
That's
it
why I
has to
asked
be
you.
like categorized into like one, fashion, two, food, three, this, shopping.
Okay. All right. So where would you go for food?
San Sebastian. Do you know where that is?
Where's that? Where's San Sebastian?
It's in the north of Spain that borders France.
Okay.
It's called the Basque Country. I
Okay.
love the food there.
Where would you go for fashion?
Paris.
We had so much fun in Paris.
And we were gonna go back this year.
What's your go-to brand to wear?
This.
Yes.
Which I think I have to stop buying because
For people who aren't watching a video, what is this? What is
me. This
Ami.
is my go-to brand.
Yeah.
It's like it's very
cute.
understated and
Yeah.
it's simple.
I love it.
Yeah.
You even influenced me to buy some Ami when we were in Paris.
Oh, but my new favorite place destination for food now is Bangkok.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
Interesting.
the food is so good and it's cheap, and your dollar goes a long way.
Oh, I've never been. Are you gonna take me there?
Yes, we are going. We're stopping. Oh my God, we're stopping in Korea and Bangkok on our way to the Philippines.
Oh, okay. I'm down for this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on the Nurse Converse podcast and giving us your journey. I know that there's probably like so much in there, so many details that we didn't even cover. There's so much that goes on, and it's just interesting to hear how you got from point A to where you are now. It's inspiring, it's motivating, and I think it's good for especially young people to kind of just hear, and it just gives people a little bit, sheds some light on the Filipino culture, which I think is really important. So thank you for coming on here. How can we find you on socials?
So I have, one which is the most popular one, I think, and we're getting a lot of recognition because with your presence as well. It's the Nurse Daddies on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and soon.
And technically YouTube. We're trying, okay? Anybody out there listening that wants to be a social media manager, send us a DM, please.
Oh no, you want the social media manager.
Daddy Dazo is fully funding this. Just send us a DM.
I have to pick up overtime. Yeah. And I have a personal account as well, Wonderlasting Epicure.
Okay.
Wonderlasting_Epicure. That was from the days where I wanted to.
He was a food blogger.
Yes.
Travel blogger.
Travel and dine the world.
Yeah. Love it. All right.
Yes, but thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to to my story to your audience, to the Nurse.org audience, and I hope one little person would probably take a little bit of this and that, and
I think so.
Hopefully, will also inspire them.
Yes.
To do things.
Love it. All right.
Thanks for joining Nurse Converse, brought to you by Nurse.org. Help us grow by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Nurse.org supports nurses with career and education tips, life advice, and breaking news. Thank you for all you do and for being you.